Let's talk about some fun stuff before we dive in.
Okay.
We took a couple weeks off, and
Has it been a couple of weeks?
Yes, which of course 5 gazillion things have happened since we last recorded. I just want to acknowledge that you had an enormous thing happen in your life.
I had a baby. Oh, no. I had a, I'm sorry. No, I did not have a baby at 56 years old. No, our sweet daughter Patsy got married last weekend. And it was absolutely, so it was the first wedding. We have 3 daughters. That wedding industry is for real. Wow. But it was an absolutely perfect day. They got married in Texas at a family ranch. It was the ranch that her now husband, Patsy's husband Trey, that his parents got married on. The whole thing was just absolutely perfect. And his grandmother, Mimu, passed away in November. And so having it on her ranch, it was actually her son's ranch next to her ranch, but we spent some time on her ranch and getting to just spend time, with her memory and all of that. And then the pastor who did her funeral did Patsy and Trey's wedding, and just the whole thing was absolutely perfect. Everything was perfect. Well, I mean, except for an occasional breakdown of the bride. And
that's what I love. When you texted me and you were like, it was perfect. And this happened and this happened and this happened. I was like, that's why I love you, because you keep it real.
They got like 7 inches of rain in 3 days. And so we're like, oh my gosh, it's going to be a muddy mess and blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, the day of her wedding, God gave us the most perfect day. It was 75 degrees. It was sunny, bright sunny. So that meant all the wildflowers were blooming. Yes, everything seems like it was perfect until you go, well, and then so-and-so had a little bit too much to drink on one night and was a little hungover the next morning, and maybe they did throw up. And yeah, exactly. Much as most of the world is right now. Everything looks great, and if you look at it in snippets, it's one story, but if you get the whole story, it's completely different. And that is very emblematic of what we're doing as well.
Yes. And why we wanted to do this project together. And we're doing today is a little bit different. And I'm really excited about it because, to give you guys context, the last time we recorded, which was about 2 weeks ago, Jolene and I had a conversation. And the idea behind the conversation was, what about our own party do we diverge from? Jolene started the conversation with saying, I believe in checks and balances. Then it immediately went into this Abrego Garcia debate. But it was this sort of idea, it seemed like you were like, I'm a little uncomfortable. I don't know if what's going on is legal. And then you started talking about this arrest warrant and sex trafficking. And I was sort of like blindsided. I had no idea what you were talking about. And I felt the whole conversation, and I think this is an important thing to bring up. It felt very clunky to me. I was sort of confused. I felt unprepared. I felt like I'm not even sure what I'm defending. Like, I thought we were talking about checks and balances, and we get a lot of comments about this, about why can't you say the facts? Fact check, fact check, fact check. Listen, absolutely, we are trying to, first of all, keep up. We are not pundits. We are not journalists. We are 2 human beings going through the world that love each other and have opposing views on certain things, but want to be able to talk to each other and learn from each other. And this is what we're both going to talk about, is that we got off the record. And I'm curious as to how you felt after this record. But I immediately, after each record, I go back and I watch it. And I start taking notes for Brianna and the crew to figure out, okay, what worked, what didn't. And I started to watch it, and then immediately it was like this Abrego Garcia arrest warrant that I was like, what is this? And so I Googled, and when I Googled liberal New Yorker person with my algorithm and my history and all of the things, And what comes up for mine is the article says due process and the Abrego Garcia case, and it's factcheck.org. And the next one is Abrego Garcia and the M13, what do we know? My Google was Abrego Garcia arrest warrant. Those two articles came up. I immediately sent them to my friend Jolene, and she had Googled the same thing. What came up for her? The headline, deported alleged M13 gangbanger Kilmar Abrego Garcia was driving convicted smuggler's car during Tennessee ... from the New York Post. The second one, deported Maryland man championed by Dems was pulled over driving car belonging to human smuggler. FoxNews.com. And then the BBC, Kilmar Abrego Garcia and MS-13. What is alleged and what do we know? And you and I immediately texted at the same time, this is crazy. There's no way that we can come together on anything when we are getting, and it's the algorithms, it's the media. And honestly, like Russia and China and any other country, they're just like,
oh, 100%.
Americans are just like, we're just fighting, and the left has their hot media headlines and the right has their hot media headlines. And you and I are going, holy moly, this is bananas. And then the second thing I want to talk about, and then I'll let you speak, is I really want to talk about due process, because I think it's really important to also understand, like, I think I can say I can represent a lot of liberals and saying, we don't want gang members in this country. We don't want sex traffickers in this country. We do want due process for everyone, because if we let that go and we don't follow the law, we are all at risk, all of us. And that's, now I'll stop my monologue and I'll let my friends speak.
So thank you for joining us today. And so next time, so we started this, you were correct, that we started this conversation, what we don't agree with each of our respective sides. And it's funny because as I was thinking about what it is that I'm fighting against, or my feelings are, it's my own internal struggle, is that if the Supreme Court told Trump he needs to make an effort, or make any effort, you got to get this guy back, that they would be defying what the Supreme Court's orders were. And we are a country of checks and balances. And so if that is the order, then that needs to be carried through. However, where then it starts to get murky, and I know this is part of the problem, how do we solve this issue of millions of people coming over across our border during the Biden administration, and then we have to go through a court system now? Like, did they really deserve due process? Do we even have the capacity and time to then allow a hearing for each one of those, hundreds of millions of people that came across the border? How are we ever going to do that?
But I feel like, Jolene, like it's a slippery slope. I hear what you're saying. Trump, he ran on this, and he ran on, we're going to deport millions of people and we're going to do it fast. Just like everything is so fast. He made this promise, but it's his timeline. It's in his brain, and some of his administration is like, we don't have time. They just need to be sent to prisons. We have to figure it out. If we don't figure this out, we're all in trouble. Like, I totally hear what you're saying. I really, really do. That, oh my gosh, this is an enormous task. There are all these people that cross the border illegally. It takes time, and there aren't enough judges, and I get it. But if we start chipping away at the law that was put in place, and we've done pretty well 200 plus years. I mean, I think we are a beacon of light for the world. to be that this democracy has lasted this long. If we start picking and choosing who has rights and who doesn't, we're in trouble.
Do you think then that every person that is in this country illegally right now deserves a court hearing?
Yes. Yes, I do. That doesn't mean I think that the court system runs smoothly right now. But if you took that energy, that money and that energy that they're doing, I mean, they're spending millions of our tax dollars shipping people on planes and paying for inhuman jails that we're paying. We as tax, we're paying. Taking that energy, that money to figure out how to streamline the process to make it less clunky.
But don't you think we're also paying for, I mean, all the social services that we're taking to help these immigrants right now? I mean, the hotel rooms in New York, I mean, right? That was such a huge story, that the millions of dollars that we're spending on housing them and feeding them. And
absolutely. And I am with you. And I understand, like, trusting the legal system. If this guy is a sex trafficker or these people are gang members, that the law will see that and ship them back. I am not suggesting, let's let them live here illegally. And I totally get it. But what I get concerned about is when we start to dehumanize, it's really a problem.
I would agree with you, except I would also say for those victims of crimes that have been committed against people that were committed by illegal immigrants, I don't have I have zero tolerance. If you've been, okay, so let me ask you this.
Yeah.
If you've been arrested for assault.
Well, Jolene, let's bring this up. So the last session, it was that day that man had been let out of jail.
Oh, in California, who had killed
and
the
you,
two
so
kids.
You knew in detail that this guy had been deported twice, that he was driving on one of the California freeways over 100 miles an hour, high on drugs, drunk, and he killed these sweet teenagers.
Yep.
And was supposed to be in jail for 10 years, which I think is not enough time, personally, if you're killing two people. And was getting out in 3.5. I did not know what you were saying. I had no idea. And right after, I Googled that, and I saw that. And I was like, first of all, heartbroken for the parents. A couple things came up. One, you know these stories in detail, which means that the right highlights these stories, and the left does not. Mm-hmm. On purpose, which I think is a shame in both regards. Mm-hmm. Because I think it is important for the left to know these stories, but I think it's also important that they don't shove these horrible stories over and over into the right's brain to then, it's sort of a way to dehumanize, in a way.
Does that person deserve to be humanized?
I think that person deserves due process. I don't think it's okay.
He was given
happened.
due process, and then we let him out in 3 years.
Well, that I don't understand. Honestly, I don't understand. I felt so ashamed. It was like technical issues where he blamed some GOP, yada, yada. But it's maddening because I'm really trying to believe in Gavin. Like that, it seems that he's trying to talk to the right and figure this out, but you can't start blaming everyone and just take responsibility. Even if he had said, "This is awful. I am so sorry." That's powerful. It's not, we don't tend at this point to acknowledge and take responsibility for, that's awful.
So does that person deserve to be deported? No questions asked? Okay, so we could agree.
No.
So,
No. Not no question. I mean,
at this point, he's already gone through due process. He was found guilty. He was sentenced. At this point, doesn't he deserve...
Here's the thing. I'm afraid to, because I'm married to a lawyer, so I don't know the laws around it. It would make sense to me that it's like, peace out. you're done.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I know the laws are there for a reason. And the laws are also there for a reason because people in history have taken advantage, and this country wanted to make sure that there were freedoms.
Okay, so when Trump said we're going to gather up all the bad guys first and deport them, you're opposed to that.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yes. And not because, here's the deal. At least in the liberal media, they talk about that there's all these quotas and there's all this pressure to gather numbers of people. Just because Trump says they're bad, we don't know they're bad. Trump exaggerates and is smoke and mirrors a lot of the time. I do not think people that rape, murder, steal, sex traffic, I don't think they should be allowed in this country. It was really important to me to express to you and to our viewers that most liberals, like, this is something, if it was treated humanely, we could actually come together on.
Good, because I think that's exactly what we want to do, right?
Right.
These are the sharing of ideas
right.
that you and I are trying to get out.
Correct.
Where's this part that we can start at that
Correct.
we both get?
And so, yes. And so, like, when Trump and Kristi Noem do these, and it's our culture right now, and the left does it too, but there's all this, like, you know, social media posting, and look at this photo op with me standing in my hat with these men.
Oh, that Kristi Noem does? I hate that. I got to tell you. I hate that.
Oh, it's awful.
I mean, she's a beautiful woman and she's tough, and I get all that, but why are you doing all these freaking photo ops? Like, just go freaking do your job.
Just do your job. Thank you. I'm so glad we can come to that too, because
100%.
It also, you know, that again is like a marketing tactic to two things. We don't know that all those men are M13. They shaved all of their heads. A lot of them are tatted. Some of them might be. But it was like, these people, we rounded them up just like we said we were going to do. And look what we did. We're good cowboys. And they're not human. Like, get them out. And that just infuses hate. And maybe it's just me. And I have a very high standard for women. I find it shameful. I was like, girl, you can do better than this. You don't need to do this.
I think it's just, it's part of being self-absorbed, you know? I mean, I think when you're...
Well, and it's our culture right now, right? Like, they're really like, these are the things I ran on, and I'm going to show you that I'm doing it.
Okay, great. Show me that you're doing it, but I don't need a photo op of you with your, you know, perfect hair and tight shirts and...
Right? I was like, girl,
and,
totally.
She's beautiful. My gosh, she's beautiful. She looks fantastic.
But I
don't need that as my secretary.
Jolene, this is a huge win that you and I agree on.
We agree on that part.
Well, yeah, because it's all part of the problem. You do your job, and we've talked about immigration before. It is a mess, and we need to find a solution. Don't spend my money on this.
Yeah.
Y'all.
I agree.
I don't want my money spent on this.
All right. So you would agree then, if you have a record, if you have a criminal history in this country, so now let's just take it a step, what I think is to be easier. If you've got a criminal history, you've been arrested and found guilty and sentenced because of these crimes, would you be okay with those people being sent back to their own country?
With due process.
But they've already had due process. That's what I'm saying. They've already been found guilty and sentenced.
Again, I don't know what the law is.
Well, that's the law, right?
That seems
isn't that
reasonable
due process?
to me.
Yeah.
That seems reasonable to me.
All right.
That yes, if they were found guilty, yes, they don't need to be here anymore, and we don't need to pay tax dollars to keep them here.
Great. We have so
agree
much
with
that
that.
we agree on this issue. I mean, on this on today.
I'm so concerned about the dehumanization. I'm so concerned about it. Because it feels very, very like we're going down the slippery slope of the 1930s and what that mess became. And I do think that we on the left and the right could put our big brains together and figure out a way to make the court system be more functioning.
Well, and do you know whose job that is? Freaking Congress. Why hasn't someone come up with, let's write a law that this is how we're going to do this moving forward? Why does it have to be executive actions?
Well, because Congress doesn't seem to, the left can't do anything because they don't have the majority, and the right is bowing down to Trump.
Well, great. Then make a law. I mean, if you think that, if that's the case, make a freaking law.
So are you as upset as I am that the right is not standing up and like trying to do some work and just letting him do?
Oh, absolutely. Like, okay.
You are.
This
absolutely.
Is good. I don't understand why Trump has to have all these executive orders. I think he's trying to get stuff done. I understand that you think that he's just a dictator saying we're going to do this and now we're going to do this and now we're going to do this. Where I think we're losing is Congress. I think Congress needs to enact the laws to get some of this stuff done.
Well, Jolene, I think you mentioned it at the top of the show, that what I learned in history class as a little girl is that we have three branches: the Supreme, the Justice, the Executive, and the Congress. And right now, it's all executive all the time. Then in Congress, I mean, here's the thing: he's got the majority.
Great.
What the hell is happening? Right. Do something. But the Republicans, it seems, because I think this was weeks ago, I sent you that, and it was a snippet, but of Lisa Murkowski. But the vibe that she was giving is that a lot of the right is afraid of him. That's a problem.
But we assumed that she was referring to that she was afraid. She goes, now is a time to be very afraid. And so we assumed that meant because she's afraid of Trump. She could be afraid of the media. She could have been referring to, I mean, we've talked about so many things that it could have been referring to.
Yeah, of course. And snippets are snippets. And that's the one thing that I'm learning doing the social media for us is that, especially on the old TikTok, wowza, is that people are so fired up. They're so ready to fight on a 30-second clip when you're like, oh, I'm just trying to advertise my podcast, so why don't you go take a look at it?
I love your answers, and your answers are so good. Thank you so much for your comment.
Yeah, thanks.
We'd really like for you to watch the entire thing and then give us your opinion.
Yeah.
You're very sweet that way.
I'm trying. This is Jolene. I think we really are on very similar pages. I think we want our Congress to work together.
Yep. How do you feel about the self-deportation? Do you know about this?
Yes, I do.
If you're an illegal, the United States government will give you $1,000 and a plane ticket if you self-deport. How do you feel about that?
I didn't know. So I didn't know the details, and that's funny because did you hear that on the right media? The exact details? And maybe other people do. I can't watch everything.
Maybe I saw it. Did I see it on Tangle? The United States government will give you $1,000 and a plane ticket to self-deport. Then your name will go into the system, into the process of getting legal status, and they can come back. If you get rounded up by ICE and get deported without self-deporting yourself, wait, can you say self-deporting yourself? Is that a redundancy?
Then you're saying
then you cannot come back. You will never be able to come back in a legal capacity.
That doesn't seem fair.
Why?
I mean, this is just a first reaction. If there were emails and this was this offer, and then they said, this was what I would add on. We are giving you 12 weeks to figure out how to leave. That would certainly cut some people from going through the court system. I mean, it's still I'm sure because the people are enmeshed here, it's It's so hard because so many people did cross the border illegally, and they fell in love, and then they had children, and then they're enmeshed in their community for the last 20, 30 years. So I do look at that side. But if we're just looking at if he had started, if the ICE raids had not happened, and this was the first thing, then people would go, let me figure out what I can do. But he started with the ICE raids. He picked up people. At the beginning, as we said on our podcast earlier, he was picking up people that were legal. There were mistakes. They were let back. I mean, they were released. But, because what it seems like is they don't have a plan. They start with something, and then I don't know if that's working so well. So then they start this, and then they start that. And these are people's lives. These are people. I also understand that they broke the law coming into this country illegally. And honestly, I never really thought about it, truly, Jolene, until we started working on this podcast. I never thought of it that way. And you are correct. They did break the law. They did. Back when the border wasn't so tight, and we talked about this, at least living in California, it used to be, and I don't know when they changed, I don't know the dates when this started to change, but it used to be that it like migrants, it was seasonal, and people, they could come and work, at least in California, they'd work the farms, and then they'd go back to their families. And it worked quite well. Mm-hmm. And we didn't have these issues that we have now. And whenever it started to tighten, people got stuck here. They weren't able to leave and come back and do their work. And then, because we're human beings, we make connections here, we fall in love, we make families, and then this becomes your home. And I know that's very emotional, but I do understand that they broke the law. And that's something that I'm now remembering. But I want to be sensitive to the fact that the way it's being done now is so, here's a plane ticket, get the fuck out. Sorry, Linda. But it's not. I think it's really, I really think that this is a viable option. We're going to give you $1,000 and a plane ticket, and we'll put you on a list to come back and be able to do this in a legal way. But if we have to deport you, you don't have an opportunity to come back legally, ever. Do you know from this thing that you've seen that I don't know what you're talking about? Is there a time limit for them to get out? It takes a while to move. I don't know. It's
a great question.
Because that's the thing where I'm like, if you really want to solve this or help lighten the load in the court system, let's say, and you offer this, you need time for people to relocate. That's just, and yes, I would imagine people are like, if you give people time, they'll find a workaround. But I also feel like you got to be realistic. If you want people to self-deport, you've got to give them time to contact family members, to move their things. And then it's like, hey, you're on the list to come back in. That sounds pretty good to me. Yeah. The person that is not a lawyer, that doesn't know, but give people 3-4 months. It's hard to move out of the country. All right. Well, I think this was a good conversation. Okay, wait. The other thing that I needed to add to this conversation too. I made the comment about the Domino's pizza being a pro-choice organization, and that people, there was this push to not give money to them because it was going to pro-choice advocacy groups or whatever. I was wrong. Domino's is pro-life and gives to pro-life organizations and has started the Ava Maria Foundation that, supports pro-life and all that. And here's what I think happened is Nicole and I talked about this afterwards. And she's like, hey, Josh brought up that the Domino's thing was actually the other way around. And I said, I remember that because I was in college in my, huge Domino's days, that when I was in college and I was pro-choice, and we've talked about this before, that my roommate's mother was the director of Planned Parenthood. And so this idea that I didn't
I was not supposed to support Domino's because I didn't align with their values. And that was ingrained in me in college when I was pro-choice. And so now here's 35, 40 years later that I still had that thought in my head, even though my values or my stance on pro-life versus pro-choice has changed as I've gotten older. I still had that I shouldn't support Domino's in my head. And so I related it to they must be pro-choice. I need to support those companies that are pro-life. And that it was actually the opposite. So funny how. So number one, I was wrong, and I apologize if I offended anybody by saying that Domino's was pro-choice, because they're not. They're pro-life. But I think then they also have made.
Well, they've come out and said that the Domino's company isn't, but the guy that founded it is.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah. So.
And maybe that's marketing so that people will buy their pizza.
Right.
Right. I mean, that's the funny thing, and thank you for just. I think it's important for both of us to acknowledge when we make mistakes. We're going to make mistakes all the time, and I think that's part of the reason that we wanted to do this is because human beings make mistakes, and we also memory is a funny thing.
Yeah,
that's why Josh has told me in court cases that witnesses it doesn't work very well. Because people don't remember, actually, and memory can
you can create a memory, right?
Correct.
I mean that it may be not accurate.
That's right.
Which is what happened. So,
and here we are in this time where even snippets that we all, get 10 seconds of or whatever, and we've made a decision. This is what I saw, and then you start fighting against each other. In that way, too. Yeah. Do you have any other thoughts about what we've been talking about?
If we want to believe in the three branches of government being equal but separate, we can't have one that's politically motivated.
But everybody's politically motivated. So how do we do that? How do we unwind that? The executive branch is politically motivated. The legislative branch is politically motivated, and the judicial branch is politically motivated.
But they're
not supposed to be.
Right? Exactly. That's exactly right. They shouldn't be.
Yeah.
And that's what keeps that system in checks and balances. Because, and we vote for Congress, and we vote for, so we have that power.
And this is, as society, we've made it about us and them. We've made it political. Everything's political. Like everything.
Can I even say the Pope? Like this
Yes!
I was so disappointed. I never in my lifetime did I ever think that we would have an American Pope, ever. Like we joked about it in our family because they said, when the white smoke, when we're all texting each other, and I was at a trade show, so I didn't get to see any of the coverage. But I texted the girls and I said, or the girls texted me and said, is it going to be Cardinal Dolan? And I said, no, the Italians would never allow an American Pope. And so when the girls texted me and said, no, it's the Cardinal from Chicago, I went, no, it can't be. Okay, so anyway, so excited. That's so great for Catholicism. It is so wonderful for America. Like I am beyond thrilled that he was chosen. But then media starts making it political and saying, well, he posted this when he was a cardinal not very long ago, at JD Vance. And I'm like, stop making, this a political, and start and right, what you're trying to do right now is pit all those Catholics against the new Pope, or, all those Republican Catholics against the Pope. Oh my gosh, why are you trying to do that?
Right. And that's a really good segue to the thing that I was like, we have to talk about this before we end, is that I am going to encourage all of our listeners and our viewers, stop being upset at your fellow, at your Republican or your conservative or your liberal. There's a bigger thing going on here. Mm-hmm. And I don't understand why all of us aren't really, really angry. We started this podcast today. We had Googled Abrego Garcia arrest warrant. Jolene got a completely different story, a slanted story. I got another slanted story. There's no way. And it's not just the media. It's social media. It's how we speak to each other, that Congress, they don't live together anymore. So there's nobody's a friend anymore. It doesn't have to be this way. In some ways it's harder because you can't just decide, I don't like you and I'm just going to hang out with my tribe. But it's also a lot easier because you could actually, corny as it may be, you could walk around the planet feeling joy, feeling love for your neighbor, which I think is a thing that Christians like to talk about, love thy neighbor.
Yes.
Let's love thy neighbor, y'all. I mean, seriously. And let's find healthy ways to talk about things. And get mad at what's going on and start to change what's going on. Like now, when Jolene and I now text all day long every day, even though I try to make sure that I don't text during business hours. Jeff, I really don't. I try not to interrupt your wife. But, it's like, look at this. And we should be upset at the system and change it and stop actually like getting sucked in and check yourself and go, hold on a second. Where am I getting this information? Because all of our enemies are freaking psyched. They're psyched.
They love it.
Because we're just going to be busy, reacting to that red dot, freaking out. And then they can bomb the shit out of us or manipulate us or whatever the hell their plan is.
You sent me a really good thing this week. I think it was this week or last week, that talked about how we're so anxious to prove the other person wrong. Like we get this bit of information, and I think intuitively we want to give it to the other side and go, yeah, what about this? And then the other side comes back and goes, no, what about this? And I think that's what people, from the comments that we're getting, that's what people want you and I to do.
Yes, they do.
And that's not what we're doing. And that doesn't help anyone. And that doesn't move the needle on getting things done. It only divides us. It doesn't work on solving the issue. And if we can move past trying to beat each other up or get one up on the other guy and work on solving the issues, we've just made a huge victory.
Well said, my friend.
You too.
It made me think. I had a conversation with my dad the other day, and I thought he was very wise in this moment. Shout out, Dad.
Oh, because he's so adorable.
Huge fan. He is a huge fan. Oh my
I'm
gosh,
a huge fan of his.
He is YouTube all the time. That's how he watches us, and he's like, oh, and he'll text me after, and he'll call me, and it's very sweet.
Oh.
But he was saying to me the other day that he's like, I can't believe I'm saying this, but Trump, that they did a trade agreement with Britain that I can't speak to because I had just flown in, and I know you've been doing your Vegas trade show. But that he was sitting there watching the clip about they'd just done this deal, and that Trump had said, we've been working on this a really long time. And it struck my dad. He was like, maybe he's doing something right. And he was like, I can't believe I'm saying it. Like he wasn't allowed to.
Yeah.
And I thought, and I said to him, well, this is quite interesting because Jolene has asked me in the podcast several times, like, will you acknowledge when he's doing something right? And I said, yes, I will. And I just thought it was an interesting thing that my father was like, I think this might be a good thing.
Oh.
I don't know, but it felt like it, and I guess I should admit it. And I think that's another thing that could help us. There's a lot I can't stand about this administration. There's a lot that I'm worried. There's a lot. And I think even you, there are things that you're like, I'm not sure about this.
Yep.
But I think it's really important that you and I truly have nuanced opinions. Not everybody we're not black or white. We're just not. and that the only way we can get better is to start seeing each other.
Yep.
And understanding, okay, you might think this, but why? Like, really, I know people are saying it a lot. I'm listening to so many podcasts, and I keep going, this is what we're trying to do, is like, get curious.
Yeah.
There's so much joy and curiosity, and it lightens you up. It really, like, your brain goes, woof.
Yeah.
When we don't, we just get small and pissed.
Yeah.
And that just makes, it hurts you, and it probably don't live as long.
Or you certainly don't live as happy.
That's right. That's right. Yeah. I have a good for the soul that I want to do before we do the Would You Rathers.
Okay.
Can I share it with you?
Yes,
okay.
Please.
So there's a podcast. It's Tim Ferriss is the guy. I don't necessarily subscribe to him all the time. He can be quite bro-y. And so he's like one of the top podcasters, and he's been doing it for years and is a very good interviewer. But sometimes it just is a little too bro-y for me. But he did a podcast an episode that I really suggest everyone to listen to. And he's one of those guys, it's about 2 hours long, these podcasts. But there's a lot of ads, so you can fast forward to the ads if you don't want to deal with the ads. But he had on this guy named Terry Real, R-E-A-L. And the title of this podcast is The Therapist Who Breaks All the Rules. And he is a recognized family therapist, author, and teacher. And the way he looks at relationships, and I think it's called RTL, like relational therapy. So that it's not about looking at your stuff. It's looking at your stuff, but in relation to someone else. In this podcast, he'll talk about how he approaches, a lot of it is like marital counseling. But the reason I bring it up is through the whole thing, the way he talks about how we relate to each other, I thought we could everyone that listens to us or watches us can use the same tools to try and understand your fellow friend or non-friend. And I know I'm a crier, but I almost burst into tears 3 times. I was so moved by how this man sees the world and how he can really help people. And I highly recommend this episode. The episode, it's number 810, Terry Real, the therapist that breaks all the rules. And we will put it in the show notes. Do you want to start the Would You Rather?
Yes.
Okay.
Because you're a drummer, and maybe people don't know this about you, that you have been taking drum lessons for 5 years?
7 years.
7 years.
Yeah. I started doing it the year after my mom died. And I was really struggling that first year after she died. It's so silly. We had a car, and we were driving down the West Side Highway in New York, and it was a gorgeous spring day, and we had the top down. We had a convertible at the time. And the music was on, and all of a sudden, and I'd never done this in my life, I started air drumming. Right? How absurd. And Josh looks at me and goes, that's what you need to do. You need to start drumming. Because I was so sad and lost.
Oh.
That's a whole other topic. So I started. I'm really bad at it, but I love it. I love learning something artistic that I don't have to be a professional at. It's pretty freeing. It's super humbling. But
Wait, say that again. You love learning something that you don't have to be a professional.
I love learning something that's artistic where I don't have to be a professional. Because every arts thing, I think I have to be a pro. That's the pressure I put on myself.
Okay.
I am turning a little bit of a corner in my lessons, but yes.
Okay, so here is Would You Rather? Would you rather play the drums in front of Def Leppard or Motley Crue?
Oh my God. I think of this often. Not about Def Leppard or Motley Crue. And it's funny because I don't know either of those bands. I was a new wave girl. I wasn't a hair band girl. So to me, they're both sort of the same.
Okay.
Which is not fair because they're not, obviously. But I think about it all the time when I'm practicing. I'm like, oh my God, if I was in a movie and I had to play this, What would I do? Like, I would really have to practice. So when I think of Def Leppard and I think of Motley Crue, they honestly seem the same, and I know they're not, y'all. I know. Does Motley Crue seem more respectable?
Nope.
See, I have no idea. I have zero idea. If you told me I had to play with the Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin...
Okay. All right. Let's use that.
Who would I play with?
Yeah.
Or I had to play in front of?
You had to play in front of them.
Because that would be terrifying. I feel like if I played in front of Def Leppard or Motley Crue, I think their grooves are pretty basic, so I could actually possibly pass. But now I just picked two of the most amazing...
Yes? So which one? Rolling Stones or Led Zeppelin?
I mean, this is horrible because they would be like, what the hell are you doing on the drums? You don't know how to play. But I think I would want to play for Led Zeppelin because he did have they had the most amazing drummer. He died, and his son now plays for them. But maybe they could teach me some things. Maybe I could just learn from like the best ever.
And it's
Stuart
not Carlos?
Copeland of the Police too. That would be Juan Carlos. Juan Carlos is the best ever.
Okay.
Juan Carlos is the best ever. I love him. He's become such a dear friend, and he's an incredible drummer, and he's, God bless him, so patient with me.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay.
So patient. So patient. Okay. Mine is, would you rather always have body odor and not know it?
Oh.
Or always smell body odor on everyone else?
Oh, God, that's good.
I can't answer it. I can't answer it for myself.
I would rather smell everybody else's body odor than me have it and not know it.
I know. Is it just me? Whenever I see old photographs or I watch a movie that's a period piece or documentary of old times, all I think is, oh my God, they must smell so bad.
Yes, no, I have done that too. Like Yellowstone and stuff when you're watching, or the 1863 or
1888,
yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I really like summer subway in New York City.
Ugh. Ew.
The smell. I don't know. I wouldn't too. I wouldn't want to not know. And you're like walking around, everyone's like, ew.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be bad.
It would be bad.
And then not know it. Yeah, that'd be bad. Okay.
It'd be bad.
This was good. This was a good conversation.
Thank you. I will see you on the other side. And to all of you, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for commenting. And keep coming on this ride with us. We appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
Bye. We've Got to Talk is produced across the world by the wildly talented, creative, and hilarious team at Bambi Media. Our theme song is Jump Jive Swing by Space Train Unlimited. Thank you so much for listening, and join us every week for another episode of We've Got to Talk.